Welcome to Title Pending, Episode 3, Games Don't Kill People, People Kill People, or what I like to say, doing daily videos could kill someone making daily videos. Anyway, coming back on topic, the reason of the title is it is a play on words of the National Rifle Association's saying, guns don't kill people, people do. But I think the gun helps is the adding by Eddie Lizard. If you didn't grow up in the United States like I did, you heard this constantly from the 1980s all the way going to today. And it's kind of this thing that you kind of just grow up as part of a gun culture. Now, the thing I really want you to note is that they are stating that guns don't kill people, it's people that do. Now, why I bring this up is that looking at the last show by Philip DeFranco, he mentions that now, because of the last school shooting in Florida, we sadly have politicians blaming video games for people dying. And why that is kind of ridiculous is the fact that if the NRA, who supplies these politicians with money and stuff like that, is promoting this idea that guns don't kill people, then why the heck are you stating that video games do that job? It doesn't make sense. You can, check out this as any of the other sites I reference in the link below, and you can see Philip DeFranco's video and his arguments. And what's also cool is he notes that, yes, there's plenty of research done over a long period of years, like decades, that shows that, yes, video games do not cause people to do violence, and that's a real plus. However, I definitely want to try to be balanced myself, and I mean, that's arguable since I'm using extra credits. But the thing is that extra credits did look at one of the studies that did affect the media for a while, for a bit. And that idea was that researchers showed that playing too much Grand Theft Auto actually can make you a sociopath. And arguably that playing this could lessen your empathy and or make a person likely to kill. Now, this thing is that, again, the research methods of the studies were in question. I'm just posting it as kind of an opposite side. But extra credits did bring up some really good points. Again, link below if you want to see that original video. So the other thing that people need to also kind of consider is that Tom Falloop, who's representative, I feel, of internet culture, of just culture, back in the 90s when we had our first major school shooting in Columbine, made a game about it. And this game explores this character PICO, and PICO is like a hero, and he's kind of trying to save people from these shooters. I don't want to spoil what the game is about. I think you should check it out. It's a free Flash game. You can click it and go to the Newgrounds link and play it for yourself. I think it's a wonderful expression of something that we all had to deal with, or a lot of people had to deal with, this traumatic experience of a school shooting for the first time. And this is one game developer, one creator's, one artist's take on that, expressing how he felt about it, which helped really just make Newgrounds explode. Coming back to the point, though, and looking at what extra credits had talked about, we see a reference to, Call of Duty. And Call of Duty being a shooter where the morality of being a soldier in a conflict, protecting things that soldier cares about or is assigned to care about, has got a different morality than, say, something like the Postal game series. And, you can look at the links below where I have both types of gameplays, but really looking at the Postal 3 gameplay by Spheres, the Amazing HD, really kind of highlights that this is a video game that isn't about being a soldier, and the context of this game is simply to enjoy killing people in fun, gruesome, and kind of awesome ways. And I have to digress that does lead to another type of gameplay. That even though that this is kind of a play on video game violence, it still is violence for violence sake. Which is interesting because when you look back at Kurt's review of Extra Lives, the author mentions that they have a hard time playing something like Manhunt, where Manhunt is a game about doing brutal acts and committing these horrible acts of violence to survive, basically, in the context of the game. And it's interesting because, ironically, the author of Extra Lives, as a player of playing Manhunt, could not kill these NPCs anymore to the point they had to stop playing. And as Kurt kind of summarizes it, when the player plays Call of Duty, that player has no problem with killing hundreds of thousands of people all the time, including, fellow players. And, you think about something like Battlegrounds, Players Unknown, and it's interesting that, there's tons of people that are playing this game, millions, right? I gotta look at the numbers, but I don't see a lot of those players going out and doing a lot of this violence. So this kind of leads to another extra credits episode where they do talk about how violence in video games can actually lead to maturity, emotional maturity, because you can express and feel those emotions in a safe environment, and then you can, reflect and as a player, and then think like, how do I feel about violence? Games like, oh man, I can't remember the game. Gosh darn it. Hotline Miami also did this for the player, where Hotline Miami has lines and content that asks you, why are you killing so many people? Now, the thing about this, though, is then Extra Credits explores the game Hatred, which you could actually say is kind of an extension of Postal. But unlike Postal, it takes the sadism to a level of seriousness. It tries to be a serious, sadistic game. And what Extra Credits talks about this sadism, promoting sadism, that this could be in fact kind of dangerous and could lead, this is where I am kind of adding my own thoughts, that this kind of danger then one could conclude could lead to like a school shooting, and that maybe game designers should be questioning the content and the morality and empathy that they're applying to the games they make. Which leads me to this next point. What can we learn from this? Because, there's getting away from this idea of gun violence and registration and reforms, all this other stuff. We are game designers at the end of the day. We're making video games, and that's what we want to do. So what type of things do we have to worry about or consider when we're talking about morality and empathy? Now, I have a picture of Breaking Bad here because this is a story that has a very empathetic character who does a lot of awful and evil things because they have a type of morality to them. And so as I am now going to start developing a small game for Newgrounds, like maybe in the next 2 months, related to a school shooting, I am going to try to push some type of morality in the game world and get the player to empathize with the NPCs that they may choose to kill, or those NPCs, based on the player's reactions in the game, could be shot by those NPCs. And I'm going to just see what happens. I'm going to try to take this kind of amoralistically myself, but I'm going to see, what kind of game and what type of experience I can make for players. We'll just see what happens. The other thing also I kind of want to note here is Tim Ruswick had mentioned this idea of procedural generated worlds. And I think this is an interesting thing where you could have maybe these types of systems, which I'm going to try to make a system that's going to generate different endings that, makes the game fresh, makes the game new for players each time. And that's where they could draw their morality and or gain empathy for these game experiences. Again, it's a small game. We'll see where it goes. Finally, I'd like to give a shout out to one of the developers' projects from the Construct 2 C3 community that I'm part of on Facebook called Rainy Adventures. I think it was a perfect game to play, especially thinking about all the depressing and sad stuff that has just been on my feed about America this, America that, and gun violence. This is a nice clean palette that I play on my phone. The other thing I just want to mention, though, is one little small criticism. If you could maybe just tone down the commercials. Right now, the funny thing is that when you play the game and you die, you have to see some really cool commercials about other video games that takes you out of the game experience. So if this is kind of a funny game mechanic, don't die or you're going to see commercials. That's my note. I'm saying this here so that maybe the developer can change this before I put my official review on the Google Play Store. Finally, two finallys later, I'd like to thank the Indie Game Chat as a group. They've been really wonderful. They've got tons of great stuff they talk about. They ask each other. I hope more players would join it, but it is specifically meant for game developers. It is a public group. It's open to anybody, and there's some really good conversations that happen on there. There's some really crappy conversations, trolling, and sometimes some awful memes, but there's also a lot of funny memes. I really do love the group and the community out there. Another thing I wanted to thank is some new subs. We have John. I'm not going to say last names because I can't say last names. Really, I can't say last names. John's got a really cool video that's on his YouTube. I believe he's made it. The video is about two soldiers who are dealing with a prisoner and how these two female soldiers get blamed for a lot of bad stuff that actually, when you look at the video, may not be 100% their fault. I put a link below. Please note it is kind of political, so keep an open mind when you watch it. Mista, thank you for the sub, but you don't have ongoing content, so sadly I can't put a link below there. And finally, we have I definitely can't say that name, but I'm gonna try. Siarhei? I hope it's Siarhei. Well, Siarhei's got a great video showing a game he's working on. It's a whip. It's ironically a 3D shooter, but I think it's a beautiful little whip video. You should check it out. Also, he's got some really cool content related to a vlog. I like looking where this person's living. It's a really interesting visual blog, so I'm just going to put that out there. Anytime I get a new sub and they have content, I'm definitely going to check them out. I'm going to try to do this until maybe I get 1,000 new people and this becomes a mess. Oh gosh, I need some sleep. Anywho, I didn't have room for the slide that says catchy phrase, so I'm just going to say it right now. Catchy phrase. Like, subscribe, do the thing you're supposed to do on YouTube. Alrighty, bye-bye.